그래서 문제에서 나왔고 그래서 테크놀로지는 알려가
I operate a video editing business called Switch on Video Editing. I edit video on my Mac using the single switch that I tap with my head. I'm also passionate about accessibility.
When Christopher was quite young, we attempted to get him into a special school, and the principal of that school advised us not to do so because Christopher was too smart to be in that school. So in the end, because of those factors, we decided that he'd be better off being schooled at home. We were able to school him through a distance education program, and that was quite a successful venture.
Big bone, yeah. What do you think that bone would be?
Well, we simply didn't think Christopher would get a fair go in a standard classroom because he had the intelligence to learn, but didn't have the ability to communicate or to write and to handle books or do any of the things that normally would have been expected of him. So we figured it would be best, at least to start off, if we got a curriculum from the school and began the homeschooling process. Christopher did go to a classroom one day a week periodically just to mix with other students, but that wasn't primarily for his education. He gained a far more comprehensive education, I think, than he would have in a classroom.
I cannot use my hands, so right from the start, I needed someone to handle books and materials and write for me. Hardly any materials were in digital form, and those that were, I couldn't access, because they were on the classroom computer, which was not set up for accessibility. I use switch control on my Mac, iPad and iPhone to run my business, study, edit video, control my environment, and communicate with people all around the world.
Having access to a computer was really important to Christopher, even when he was quite young. Because of his difficulty in communicating verbally, we needed to give him a platform that he could use to communicate in other ways, and computers seemed like the natural option for him. He had a great interest in that from a very young age and picked up the technology very quickly.
We found out by strapping a small spec switch to his headrest on his wheelchair that he could tap that switch with his head reliably enough to be able to do some very basic things on the computer, like turning the pages of an electronic book and so on. And he just went from there, and because that was something that he was interested in and because he was smart enough to be able to learn, he became very proficient at the use of a switch very early on.
There was also another program that we attempted to use with Christopher, which was a very early version of word prediction software, but he didn't really make much use of that until it became a more mainstream piece of software, and he uses it constantly now, and it's made a big difference to what he can do.
I mean, it's proof of the fact that technology changes so quickly to just look back a few years and see that the technology that was available when Christopher was in primary school was completely inadequate. There was very little access that he could have had independently to any kind of technology. Things have changed dramatically in the last few years, and perhaps if Christopher was beginning school now, it may be a different story.
Switch control on Apple devices can support Bluetooth switches. I use devices called the Tekla Shields, one for my Mac and the other for my iPhone. There are a number of ways switch control can be set to meet different needs. Here are a few examples on iOS. The basic technique is to use a switch to select an item or location on the screen, and then use the same or a different switch to choose an action to perform on that item or location. 3 basic methods are item scanning, point scanning, manual selection. Let's look at item scanning. This highlights items on the screen until you select one. Item scanning is the default setting out of the box. Thanks to auto scanning, this means iOS devices are accessible via a single switch. I use Mac OS X with a single switch, thanks to auto scanning, to do most of my communication and work. I have been able to customize my own panels using the built-in panel editor. I have redesigned the keyboard layout by arranging the keys so that the most commonly used keys are scanned first. I have built panels with keyboard shortcuts and mouse controls, such as the gliding cursor, for applications such as Final Cut Pro 10. I have been able to do all of this independently because I have complete control of my Mac. Switch control has also enabled me to access the Microsoft Office suite and even Windows via a virtual machine. I remember one day doing a class activity that was computer-based. Everyone enjoyed these kinds of activities. I vividly remember, all I could do was sit back and watch while a friend of mine completed the activity. This made me feel excluded and powerless. These days, there are many pieces of technology that allow teachers to include and empower just about everyone.
Rather than being very bulky and large devices, they are small and discreet, so students that have additional needs are no longer having this big neon sign saying that they are different.
What did I technology is there? Then algorithm everybody. All we have to do is use it.
Well, I think with any piece of technology, the ability to be able to personalise. I don't know how many times I go to a group where they have Apple devices and they've taken them out of the box and just using them as default. Being able to do things like change the voice to suit you, being able to change the size of the font, being able to change the speed of the voice on that device in order to personalise it for you, and being able to look at the screen from totally different perspectives, whether it might be inverting those colours or otherwise. So for me, it's around personalisation, and that being absolutely key, and having control over the device rather than just being a consumer of that device.
believe that the most untapped resource that we have available to us today is the fact that technology is changing rapidly and we don't realise what we have in our own hands. So I think what we need to do is tap away, explore, play, and tap on that accessibility item and have a look at what's in there. Whether you have a disability or not, you will find something in there that you did not know existed. You really have to explore it. If you don't understand what it actually does, research it and use it with your students, explore it. I really don't think people are aware of what the device you have in your hands can do.